Communication. Communication is the backbone, the foundation of everything we do. So I want to offer you my top 5 tips to master project communications for this fourth quarter of 2024 and into 2025. So let's go. It is true that project communications is the backbone of any successful project. And if we learned anything from 2020 and COVID, we learned that it changed the entire landscape of the way that we all work, and it changed it forever. Today, still in 2024, remote work and digital collaboration is still a major part. It's just normalcy now in how we work. So effective communication really is more important than ever. The health of your project communications makes really all the difference between success and failure. Now, when it's done right, the project is delivered on time, it's within budget, it meets customer expectations. Collaboration digitally can be great. But when it's done poorly, it can lead to project failures. It can cause all of the costs to overrun and ultimately damage relationships with customers and then those internally in your organization. So my question is this: what are some of the challenges that you're facing when it comes to your project communication? What is it that we're doing wrong? See, I believe that misalignment is a major challenge that teams face in project communication. See, when team members are not on the same page, this leads to confusion. And then we all know that confusion leads to delays, and then ultimately these delays lead to project failure, and then everything has to start over, and it has to be reworked. So misalignment, missing the information. Another challenge is information overload. See, trying not to miss the information, trying to make sure that we are all aligned and on the same page and everything is being communicated, well, we can have information overload. See, I bet many of you have experienced this in your project communications, especially if you're off-site. It can be easy to just bombard everyone with literally too much information. Information overload, it becomes paralyzing because it just makes it difficult to prioritize and focus on what's most important. And all of this just creates another challenge in having a lack of clarity. And in the midst of this information overload, messages can be vague or they can just be unclear. And it doesn't do your team any good to have an overload of information if it's not clear and if it's not concise. All of this information about what your team is collaborating on and the expectations of it, they have to be clear. Now, I also think it's worth mentioning here that for all the good that it brings us, technology can also be a barrier to effective communication. This is especially true when your team is using a lot of different tools and a lot of different platforms trying to manage the communications in the project. It seems like for many organizations, we ended up in this situation because of 2020. We were just throwing the proverbial technology at the wall, just trying to see what would stick and what would make things work. And so in an attempt to strengthen project communication with technology, in many cases, we've actually made it worse. And then, to be honest, this must be said, sometimes people just simply don't communicate well. Communication is difficult for some people. This is either usually due to a lack of skill or it's a lack of effort. Now, communication is a key area where I can help you and your team excel by hosting an in-person training for your organization. So if you're interested in that, please let me know. Now, regardless if you're working on-site or remote, I don't want you to be discouraged because there really are some simple strategies that you can employ that will sharpen your project communications. So let me share these top 5 tips so that you can avoid these common challenges and then you can set your projects up for success. Number 1, establish a clear communication plan. From the very beginning, before you even start, this is so important to establish a clear communication plan. Now, this plan should outline several key components that just ensure clarity in your project communications. So what is to be communicated? Meaning the communication objectives. What is it that we are going to communicate? Who are we communicating to? Who are the stakeholders here? And what channels are we going to use in order to communicate? The communication plan should also define the frequency and the format of the communication and the roles and the responsibilities of every team member. See, having a clear plan helps to ensure that everyone is on the same page and that communication is consistent and it is effective. So before you even begin these projects, you need a clear communication plan. And then number two, use collaboration tools. We talked about this technology earlier, but collaboration tools are important. And I know there are so many tools and there's so many resources available, but there's so many that help facilitate open and transparent communication for your team. You can utilize tools like Google Workspace, Monday.com, Microsoft Teams, or Slack, Basecamp. There are so many incredible platforms. But regardless of what tool that you use, find a tool that works best for your organization. Because when you find the tools that work for you, they can make it a lot easier for your team to collaborate. And often in real time, that way they're sharing information as it happens and they're tracking progress as the project continues. And now these types of tools are really great too because it can help minimize the reliance on email. And I know if you're like me, you get bombarded with stacks and stacks of emails. And that often, when all those emails are coming from so many places, it often reduces the frequency and the depth of the communication that we have, which ultimately, it just leads in, again, miscommunication. So by using the right tools, you can streamline communication and increase your productivity. Number three, use clear and concise language in all of your project communications. Clear and concise language in everything that you communicate. Just avoid overcomplicated language or the technical terms that may be confusing to your team. Instead, use simple and straightforward language that gets the message across. I like to say, put the cookies on the bottom shelf so we can all get to it. See, when your team is relying on a lot of written communication in whatever avenue, whatever variables that you're using in your technology, it's best to keep it, as the old saying goes, short and sweet. See, when you eliminate long, complicated, and confusing communication, it helps keep the overall mission and the vision of everything that's being worked on, the project, very clear. So just keep it simple. And then number four, set up regular check-ins and progress updates. Regular check-ins and progress updates. This helps to keep accountability. Now, this could include daily or weekly meetings. It could be written reports or status updates. Now, I recognize that this tip here, the regular check-ins and these progress updates, they're often dismissed as just busy work, but it's important for many different reasons. It helps in monitoring the progress of the project, just making sure that everyone's on track. It also helps to provide support for your team. See, with frequent check-ins, you can identify potential issues and you can identify those early. Then you can provide support and then you can make adjustments as they're needed. And ultimately, as an added benefit, this helps you as the leader. It helps you to build trust and confidence with your team that you're there to support them and that you're there helping them along the journey. And then number five, listen and respond to feedback. Listen, this is for you as the leader, listen and respond to feedback that you receive. Communication is a two-way street, and it's very important that you listen to the needs and the concerns of your team. If you're going to build trust, resolve issues quickly, and improve communication overall, you have to listen to the feedback from your team. Did you know that 41% of employees say that they've left their job because they didn't feel like they were being listened to? Think about that. The complaints that could be had and the things that we think they're saying. But 41% say, I can't work in this environment because no one is listening to me. So if you want to increase the quality of your company culture and project communication, listen to your team. Now, of all of these 5 tips that I've shared with you today, I think the most impactful one is to begin by establishing a clear communication plan from the beginning. This is going to help you set the tone for your entire project, and it's going to ensure that everyone is on the same page. And if you find that your projects are lost in translation, I want to encourage you to go back to the beginning and establish a clear communication plan and go from there. Sometimes you just have to reset and restart. So employ these 5 tips and you can master project communications and you can set your projects up for success through the rest of this year as we move into the 4th quarter and even into 2025. Remember, effective communication is key to delivering projects on time, within budget, and meeting your customer expectations. Don't underestimate the power of communication in achieving project success. If you've got your own experiences or tips for mastering project communications, I'd love to hear them. Just leave them in the comments below. Start the conversation. I would love to hear what you're doing. And then if this added value to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. I'll see you on the next one.